warbles on a lot here. As you can see by the clutter, I've been having yet another day playing with the Chinesium hoses. This end, I think, is probably going to work. But I thought that with this end. And what happened when I tried the new approved method, which involved using a couple of short sleeves. However, as you can see by this one, when you try this method, what happens is the water goes through the hose, it then drags the sleeve in and pretty much prevents anything from going out through the Storts fitting. So, therefore one has had to cut the end off the hose and try again. So, we shorten the sleeves. So we go again with a much shorter sleeve, and this is the unfiled hose tail, because I hope to get away from having to file all the rest of the hose tails, and that's too long. It'll fold over and impede the flow. So we chew our way along here to shorten it, and that should work. Okay, and getting that to fit over there is not actually bloody easy. Okay, so the theory is we have a wire tire on top of the bulge, and we have a wire tie on top of the final lump. So that should work. Okay, so that's fairly neat. Certainly. Okay, well, the tie wire job is obviously neater. And if I had not have filed this hose tail down in order to get the modern new style of a hose clamp to fit, well, I guess I would probably have done both ends with tie wire. However, for the 4 ends of the two 30-metre hoses, I'm going to use these old style bent wire Jubilee-Clip type hose clamps. And the Jubilee they're celebrating was Queen Victoria's 50th year on the throne, as far as I know. That's why they're called Jubilee-Clips. It's when they were invented. But now let's go and test this thing. Because, as the saying goes, really the only way to test a fire hose is to fill it up with water and put it under pressure. Yeah? So let's see what we shall see. Well, it's not totally leak proof. Drops per second. I'm going to say that's acceptable. And that isn't perfect, but I'll tell you what, it might be just enough of a leak to stop the water from boiling in the pump. So I might have to call that acceptable too. Well, that's working pretty well. Certainly pumps out the water anyway. And it's not leaking too badly, I would have to say. Yeah, I can cope with that. It's not bad. Right, so pump's back to idle, valve's off, and the hose is holding pressure. as you can see. Yeah. Chinesium fire hose. Consider yourself cured. One down. 2 to go. Ah, look at that. Asking it to hold pressure means the bloody thing's found another pinhole. Here it is. And there's nothing I can do about that. I guess it's one way in which you could call this a percolating hose. I think it's a problem. Well, here's another little leaky drop. Not entirely certain, but I think it's a problem with the application of the inner lining of nylon on the inside of the canvas, or nylon canvas hose. Okay, so we'll let that drain. Switch the motor off. And yeah, I proclaim that I have achieved the cure for Chinesium, more or less. So, now, all I've really got to do is roll that one up 25 metre with a pinhole or two. And I'm not going to worry about the pinhole because, in theory, these nylon canvas Chinesium hoses are only to run the sprinkler, and if it's got a pinhole here or a pinhole there, doesn't matter. At least it's not pissing all over the ground in front of the pump. It's just a drop a second, perhaps. And I think that might be from the interface of the collar and the hose tail on that tiny weeny thin little 1.5mm lip. What can you expect? This is the best I can do. Although I've bought enough of these to remake the other 2 hoses, I'm not going to use them. I'm going to use these old Jubilee-Clips, which came in the complimentary hardware kit that came with the 2 Chongqing Lifan pumps and the Bianca 3 horsepower transfer pump. So happily, I am in possession of hose clamps that will perfectly function with the strange double-ribbed hose tail which came with these Chinese Storts compatible fittings. They're not actually Storts fittings, they will hook onto Storts fittings. And that's probably all the building regulations require. You have to have Storts compatible hoses so that the fire brigade, when they show up, can hook their hoses into the standpipe wherever the nylon hoses are stored in your public building, school, shopping centre, wherever it is that they're being used. Why am I not going to do the neat solution with tie wire? Why am I going to go with these clunky old things? Well, the fact is, if you have to shorten a hose because one of them's burst or been dropped on a hot burning log, if I absolutely have to fight fire using these hoses in the window in time while I'm waiting, it's only $480 worth of hoses to arrive. Well, I might actually want to be able to use one of them Jubilee clips to shorten the hose. You know, if I've got 2 other hoses and one of them's just split, that gives me an option. Not as neat as a wire tie, but more flexible. To redo a wire tie, you've got to use pliers and you've got to sit down and buggerise around, and you can, if you really have to, operate a Jubilee clip with the flat back of a knife blade if for some reason you haven't got a screwdriver. Before I forget, this is the length that I amputated from that same hose, and in there See that bright shining pinhole in what amounts to being a white line? There is the pinhole, and there's another one up here, and it's happened on this line of discoloration where I think, for some reason, the layer of waterproofing nylon on the inside is just too thin. As you can see there, the sunlight shines through the thin waterproofing layer. And there's another pinhole. And that's where the hot nylon failed to go through the weave. There's the defect from the other side. It's definitely not a puncture, as far as I can see. Much more of a manufacturing defect. So that's why that hose has got pinholes in it, and I didn't know whether it was going to tear apart and leak or quite what was going to happen. So therefore I amputated it. And as you can see, the other end that was not leaking, it doesn't have any such discoloration line of light application. There's a fold line there. But essentially, this end is okay. This end has a manufacturing flaw. And perhaps back in Beijing, somebody's got a warehouse with several hundred miles of this randomly fault-filled hose, and maybe perhaps that's why they're making them up and selling them at $2 a metre with galvanised tie wire instead of hose clamps, because we do know that the Chinese are capable of making old-fashioned Jubilee-Clip hose clamps. Right, more or less. Right, as I said, 125 metre down, 230 metres to go. But not today. Right. So last trick of the day, I'm going to move that fitting from this end of the hose, which is sort of too close to that, where someone at some point has run over this, and it is wont to kink. And this is a sort of a siphon hose, so I don't want it to kink there. Also for water delivery, I don't want it to kink there. It's just a scratch. When you get hoses from the dump, sometimes they've got pinholes. This is a little cut that doesn't go through. Under there was a cut that did. Caused me no end of difficulty trying to siphon. So, hose clamp on a Stort's hose tail. Okay, moved. Okay, done. So now, when I put the soft tail in, there won't be any kinks in the exposed part of the hose where I am connecting onto the flexible hose at the end of the Aquarius delivery pipeline. Details, details, details. The bloody thing's full of details. And of course, we can't let the wasps go in there. So, we take our spare nozzle, and on the theory that the best way to protect Stort's rubbers and Stort's lugs is when they're connected to a Stort's fitting, that's ready to be stowed with a nozzle doing duty as a Stort's end cap. Cunning, isn't it? I spend $27.40 on a Stort's end cap when a spare hose nozzle will do, and it has other functions entirely. Okay, done for the day. Now I suppose it must be time to water the critters once again, after tidying up and putting all this crap away. And of course, after spending the day playing with fire hoses, just when you get it all ship-shape and Bristol fashion, that's when the weather gods, in their wisdom, deign to respond to the day's activity and treat it as a rain dance. It's raining on my roof. Isn't that marvellous? It's a marvellous day for a rain dance. Ah, listen to the sound of the rain on the roof. And look at me, 3 full tanks. And the ground is getting watered. I have the August 2019 issue of Aeroplane Monthly magazine, which just arrived by sea mail. I've got a fresh cup of coffee. Slightly too hot to sip, but anyway, one is making a video. The frogs are singing in the pipes. Come on fellas, don't let me down. There you go. As it were foretold within the prophecy. Everything will be fine. If for no other reason than that the frogs have decided that it's going to rain. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Ciao.